Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Everything Combat, because yes, life is a fight. And joining me as always is my co-host, the brains of the operation, Jeffrey Wilson. And Jeffrey, we've got a pretty unique, I'd say a pretty unique guest. We have had some pretty stellar names, the Dan Gables of the world, George Foreman. We've had a lot of very established big names in the world, guys who have overcome hardship and done amazing things to become role models for other people. But this guy is unique amongst even those greats. He's a father of 6, a husband also, of course, retired Green Beret. And, he had an interesting childhood, a rough childhood, growing up in a place called Apache Junction, Arizona. And through his life experiences that, as he explains them, were pretty extreme at times,
yes,
pretty rough at times. Obviously, he has overcome all of those things and decided in his mid-30s that he hasn't accomplished enough, apparently, in overcoming all these obstacles. So he decided to walk on to the Arizona State wrestling team and attend college there. And I mean, we're going to let him expound upon this, but this is incredible. He's in the starting lineup for the Arizona State Sun Devils, which is a wrestling powerhouse around the United States.
Yes,
it's well known in wrestling circles. And he's starting. He's in the starting lineup next week. So this is really incredible. And so I want to welcome our guest, Jeff. His name is Roman Rozell, and he is joining us from Arizona. Roman, thanks for jumping on with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Champ, when you told us about him, I was, I was quite taken aback. No, that's not a very common story. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of our veterans coming home going through a lot of stuff, but to walk on to the Arizona State Sun Devils as a wrestler, rather impressive. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what I wanted to do is kind of just let's talk about Apache Junction. It's a rough area. You've explained that to me before. And the folks that live out in that area of Arizona and stuff, of course, know about Apache Junction. But look, I'm in a flyover state in Iowa, so I haven't previously heard a whole lot about Apache Junction until I met you. And right. So kind of tell us a little bit about your childhood, family life, all that stuff growing up.
Okay. Well, for those not familiar with Apache Junction, they actually had a show on the Discovery Channel about the legendary Superstition Mountains, and that's in Apache Junction. I think it was on the History Channel.
Okay.
It's got great people, but it also has stereotypes. It's known for its trailer parks, meth. As a matter of fact, it rates number 1 for dropout rate and aggravated assault and drug charges in Arizona. So
okay,
that's what I'm familiar with. I mean, there's bad parts everywhere you go, but unfortunately, sure. That's what I grew up into. My mom divorced my dad when I was 6, and immediately got into one toxic relationship after the other, and basically moved me all around Arizona. And it was pretty rough. Everything that comes with addiction, abuse, poverty, all that stuff. By the time I was 13, I averaged 4 schools a year. It was rough. I mean, one time she took us all the way to Snowflake, Arizona. Well, not her, I guess my stepdad. They kind of held us hostage. When I say us, my sister and me. She's 4 years younger than me. But I mean, Snowflake is, God, so far away from, Phoenix, where I was at. It's not like my dad was out of the picture, but my mom was all over the place. But this time it was just out in the middle of nowhere next to some Indian ruins. And we basically squatted on this trailer, and it was kerosene lamps, no water, nothing. Just poor as fuck. And we had about 3 water jugs, about 5 water jugs actually, that we used for bathing, drinking, whatever. My sister and I, we used to have to put a bathing suit on, and my stepdad would just pour water over us just so we can kind of lather up and whatnot. And we had a toilet, and obviously it couldn't flush or anything like that, so we had to wait till this thing got porta-john full, barely touching you, before we can take actually like some water and flush it.
Wow.
So that was and obviously it was pretty bad, but I mean, that's actually a good story compared to some of the other stuff that I can remember. But yeah, it was just one challenge after another, but I felt like I needed to kind of be around to protect my mom for the most part. You know, something would happen or she'd get beat up pretty bad. You know, I would call the cops. Little did I know I was bringing, you know, trouble all the time. But it even got to a point where I was pretty much like knew what to say to a cop when he came. That way, so my mom wouldn't go to jail or anybody. So I knew how to like kind of quell the situation. I mean, that's kind of weird for an 8-year-old.
Have your spiel down.
Yeah, like I already had it.
That's quite a skill set at that age.
Yeah, it was. And I look back, I was like, dang, man, I just remember, I guess it was prepping me for the special forces, you know, but just
right.
But I think what was worse than that was honestly just getting bullied and harassed. You know, I was an overweight kid growing up, short kid. I had acne in elementary school, which for elementary kids, that's kind of rare. So
right.
people kind of knew me as that kid that would always move away, come back. So it'd be like this. My mom would get her ass beat. We'd move back to my grandpa's. He'd say all the right stuff or whatever, buy some stuff. We'd go move again. And this would repeat itself. That's why I would go to like 4 or 5 schools a year.
Right.
Place. And every time, sometimes I go back to the same school, you know, 2 or 3 times. So it was just kind of, and those kids, yeah, they made it really hard for me, as if I didn't have it, you know, hard enough at home.
I'm sorry if you didn't mention it. After your parents got divorced, did you have any kind of, and I'm sorry if you said this already, maintain any relationship with your father during these times?
Yeah, like I say, well, he wasn't out of the picture. He always worked, and he was, you know, doing his part. It's just my mom had us on the go nonstop, and like I was like her bodyguard. So I got to see my dad, like, you know, every other weekend or like on a birthday or something like that. But a lot of the times we never had like a stable place, like so, and phones, there was no cell phone, stuff like that, and
right.
Using a payphone to call, that was rough, because little did I know, you know, dialing 1-800-collect or call ATT, I was actually causing more trouble for my dad by them giving a big bill, you know. But
right.
So yeah, overall it was just kind of rough.
So now, are your biological mother and father still alive?
Yeah. I just live not too far from my dad, back out here in Arizona, and my mom. When I was 18, my mom moved to Washington. She got out of AJ, that's Apache Junction, and went to rehab and got sober, and has been sober about as long as I've been doing things.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Turn it around.
Yeah, we all got a good relationship and stuff like that, and she had a really rough, maybe worse than my upbringing, you know. And got pregnant really early with me, so they never graduated high school. My dad did, but or not even my dad. I forgot, because I became the first male Rozell to graduate high school. I came in the picture, so it was but that they kind of started off, you know, kind of on the wrong foot, and then just one thing led to another, and you know.
But that's something people often overlook, man. And you know, people coming from such tumultuous relationships as a young man, and you know, other siblings, you're like, man, I hate mom and dad. Why would they? I'm not saying you say this, but like, why did they do this to me? But they didn't just come out like that. Like, they usually came from situations, even in their past, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're products of the same kind of environment.
Yeah, the family support, or you know, the financial resources. That's why a lot of young people don't stay together, because, you know, as soon as it gets hard and the finances come, it's just like, boom, separate, craziness. And that's why a lot of the cycle kind of repeats itself still in that city.
Well, and we're going to get to it too. And I don't mean to jump the gun, but you have such an amazing wife, because as we're going to talk about, as you were going through your struggles and moving around, your wife who was pregnant maybe once, maybe twice, was kind of carrying the load while you were going to school and such, and that is such a testament to who she is. She didn't dip out when, supposedly the man of the house wasn't exactly doing what he was supposed to be doing. She played a very pivotal role.
Right. It was, and I think, she was about to dip out, and that's why I withdrew from school. I got a wrestling scholarship, so it was awesome. I started a family early. I was battling with my own addiction. It was kind of crazy how I even got that scholarship, just because my life was just going in a whirlwind. But I went
scholarship to
Northwestern College, a little small city called Orange City, Iowa.
Hey, there you go.
High school. Yeah. It was awesome because they had kind of recruited me early on in my wrestling career, as far as freshman, sophomore, just kind of reaching out to me and talking to me. And it was a Christian school, so that was kind of like my thing. That's pretty much how I was able to kind of grow up alone, was just having that spirituality. So I'm a man of faith, so that was big for me. And it couldn't have came at a better point. Like I said, I was battling with drugs, and I have a kid on the way. I don't know if I want to graduate anymore. And, I get a call from them saying hey, are you still interested in coming? And I was just like, you don't want me, this is what's going on in my life, this. And it was quite the opposite. They're like, you need to get out of that environment. You have a family, you have a lot of stuff going for you. We know who you are. And, we're all kind of broken goods anyways. So he's like, right. So come up here. It's not even about wrestling. You just need to get up here, get your education, get your degree, and be good for your family.
It's something I found fascinating. Even in the throes of your addictions, you would, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going off your words from another interview. You would be high and read the Bible, engross yourself into the Bible.
Yeah, that was just my thing. Growing up alone, I spent a lot of time alone, even because my mom was an addict. So her and my stepdad, they would, sometimes disappear for, a whole day, a couple days, and it's just me, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, with a 4-year-old, 5-year-old sister and above. So on Wednesdays or Thursdays, there's always a van, a creeper van, not really, but, or a bus that would come and pick, kids in the trailer parks or project areas up and take us to church. And, that was always good for me because there was no segregation. We were all there just having fun, playing basketball. I wasn't just that fat kid, people I got attention from people. It was a really great place for me. And as I'd read the Bible, and I'm like, man, this is all about suffering. I was like, man, people have it worse than I do. And then I kind of developed a servanthood attitude, and never really looked at my situation as being bad. I always had better perspective, even in those dark times. And I knew there was other people out there that had it worse than I did. So I spent a lot of alone time just kind of reading and just kind of building myself up strength, through, the Bible. That was a parent that wasn't, when right. In the absence of, so.
It's interesting that you recognized, off the top, and a lot of people kind of don't get this. They always think it's sunshine and rainbows, but suffering is a part of the deal. You know what I mean? It's just, that's what life's about.
It is. You come out so much stronger and going through it. And the body needs it. I think the mind needs it.
So in reading the Bible that much, obviously you've probably read Job a million times. So you probably said to yourself, what I'm going through isn't anything compared to what Job's gone through. Because I've read Job several times, of course, in my life, through tough times, and going, hey man, I'm a lot better off than Job was. I can get through this. Is that something that, I figured.
A lot of times I'd be like, well, if God's not going to intervene and help this dude, how's it going to be me? So that means, I just need to trust and fight, and I'm going to get through this at the end of the day. Because I think a lot of people do I don't know, you can even talk about Paul, had all these issues, depression, beaten, put into prison, stuff like that. And, he makes it out in the end. He's happy as hell, joyful, just spreading the word. And that's hard as fuck. I mean, that's a warrior. I mean, cause like, hey, he's not asked like, hey, God, take it from me, but if not, whatever, I'm gonna get through this type deal. And ends up doing like great things. And I think that was something I always kind of looked to. I'm like, man, if God ain't gonna take this from them, that craziness, and they're able to kind of reach me and do other things, I'm like, well then, game on.
Yeah. So, how did things culminate? I mean, obviously you ended up walking on to Arizona State, so you did not complete your school up in Iowa. So what?
Well, hold on, but you jumped the gun, Pat. There's a couple of questions, but I mean, getting into school, being so engrossed in the Bible, and coming out of Arizona, and then going to Iowa and this Christian school, it was a huge culture shock for you, from what I understand. So how did you those were kind of different worlds. You were still a Christian, but these guys were so much more rigid. I think I heard you say someone came in with a Maxim magazine, and they're like,
I did, yeah.
I
had a Maxim magazine. They're like, get that out of here. Don't cause me to sin. And I was like, whoa, like I already had a kid at the time, had bleached hair. I'm like, it was weird. I mean, but it was awesome at the same time. I was like, dude, I want my kids to be disciplined like this. And, and it wasn't just that. I mean, everything, like, I had earrings. I was just in a Christian rock band. So I kind of looked that part, and these people looked like something from
Amish
years ago. Yeah. I was just like, whoa.
Churning butter in the background.
Yeah. Obviously, like, you can take the kid out of the trailer park, but the trailer park and that freaking ghetto-ness is still going to be in him, because I went back home and my wife gets pregnant again. And, when I go back to school, and that's where my wife's stuck pregnant now, and then with our other child, and then her working, full time to support me, and just kind of living with my parents or hers or whoever would let her stay. It was just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. And I was just like, no, I didn't want my family to grow up with a broken family, because I knew how that was, and I wanted to break that cycle.
Yeah.
I vowed that I was going to do everything I could to make it work. And I withdrew from school. I was just like, gosh, man, I just need 3 more years or 2 at that. I was like, to get my degree. But it was just, obviously I had to quit being selfish. So I went and picked up, and then that's when I enlisted in the military. So I can kind of still do the same thing, take care of my family, serve, and continue college, because the military itself just offers free education.
So at the age of 19, you get into the military, correct? 19?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, 19. And that's when I married my wife. We made it official.
Nice.
Well, things are a little more secure. You're making a little bit of money, at least, with the military, and when you went into the military, when you went into the Army, did you have your sights set on becoming, an SF guy right away?
Yeah, kind of. Growing up, I watched Rambo, and of course all the Chuck Norris. I had no idea like what rank was, officer, sergeant, none of that other stuff. So going to basic training, I thought I was going to come out the guy in charge, like the officer, and get that Green Beret. And I was kind of, that was a culture shock. I'm like, wait, I'm not going, to special forces. Like, no, you need 18 months in service. You need to be an E4. And I was like, what? I was like, but I have some college. They're like, you don't have a college degree, so you can't be an officer. I was like, how does this work? And, I think all of us, like, that we just, whenever we get comfortable, we like to kind of challenge ourselves, or we like that struggle, and kind of, someone says it can't be done, we like doing it. So I knew where I was at was great, but I was like, I want to see if I can be greater, or not that what I was doing wasn't great at all, but I wanted to challenge. I wanted to be the best. I guess I kind of always felt like I've always had something to prove. It could be something, growing up,
right?
People kind of doubting me out, but I mean, it just, I don't know. Yeah, that was what I sought out after. It just took a while, just due to just back-to-back deployments.
Right. So
what
where all did you deploy, and how many deployments did you have?
My first one, I didn't realize how long it was going to be. So young, dumb Roman, who's, who's poor, but now he's seeing money and realize you get more money when you deploy. I volunteer to go early so I can, take all the tanks and all that other stuff and do that. And little did I know that was a 15-month deployment.
Ugh.
Yes. That was rough.
Yeah.
And, during that time, that's where a lot of the IED explosions, suicide bombing, just day-to-day life grind. There's no weekends off type deal. It was like I wanted something to happen just so I can get sent home. Man, it was miserable.
So you're saying you wanted to get injured just so you could finally go home and see your wife and kids?
Yeah, it got rough. Because your average day was, especially as an enlisted guy or a young guy, like an E4 below, like a private, like you're pulling tower guard because they have towers all over, the FOBs is what they call forward operating bases or bases. And at that time, sergeants aren't going to pull that stuff. They have like one sergeant that kind of rows. So like you're basically, and you do all the work. So you're like you're prepping your vehicles all the time. You're cleaning your weapons. You're doing this, you're doing that. Like you maybe have about an hour to two, maybe. And that's just sporadically throughout that day of like free time to eat, maybe go to the gym and whatever. Cause if not, like you're having to do, go for work, go for this, go for that, do this, do that, and this is while you're deployed and shit like that. And so it was rough. So a normal day was, let's say 06, we're eating chow. And then after that, we're working on the vehicles, tanks, whatever, getting ready to go on mission. Maybe not even get lunch. You just kind of go to your next base, kind of set up for ops and do whatever. As soon as you get there, of course, you're pulling tower. So you get straight from the vehicle to pull tower guard about 4 hours, and you kind of rotate with your buddies. So you maybe get 2 hours off and down. You go on a patrol, do whatever, get blown up, react to contact, do whatever. Everyone comes, scrape away the bodies, go back, and then pull tower guard and do all that other stuff again. It's just nonstop. Like let's repeat. And we don't have internet because at this time, a lot of it, they black it out that way. So when someone dies, you can't go like, hey, guess what happened before they're notified. And
right.
So much. So I would go a month or two without talking to my family.
Wow.
It was just, yeah, man, it was such a prison, man. So
wow.
It was, and people were always dying that was close to me or like on mission. And I kind of got to that point where I was just trying to be overzealous. Like I would stand up in the turret, just trying to hope a sniper would get me and it'd be like, ding, far away, or an IED, just waiting for an IED to go off. And, maybe get my bell rung a little bit, but still looking like I'm fucking fine, contact, whatever, just shit like that. And I was just like, this isn't going to end. But it was, God.
You mentioned in another one of our interviews, and believe me, bro, my intention isn't, I appreciate your service, and I can't imagine having going through this, but you're like, I'm doing, quote unquote, like you said, cleanup duty on a friend of mine that I was just eating chow with hours ago from an IED or whatever. We can't.
From a vehicle born IED. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, you have to go through that, but that's just, wow. I can't even imagine, man. I just can't even begin to imagine. I think a lot of us over here can't begin to imagine that, but hearing your mindset of like, man, I just wanted to get hurt to come home. It's just seeing all that. I can't even imagine.
Right.
Now I don't want to make it sound like that was how I always felt. Cause I compartmentalize it. I put on a mask, I put on that warrior mask. So while I was feeling that, my comrades, like everybody next to me, and some of them are still alive, and they could tell you, like, I was that Chuck Norris killer. Like I was the guy that I didn't show that emotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I was still there. I was like, hey, better me than, someone else, doing this stuff or whatever. So I kind of took pride in that. And because I guess maybe I'd gone through so much as a child, like a lot of that stuff didn't hit me as hard as maybe some other people, but I liked being that guy that was the dude ready to take control, like when all chaos is going on. So I took pride in that. And I used to say it all the time. Like, I used to use Chuck Norris as an example all the time while I was over there, and it just kind of followed me. I did that on my next deployment too. I just kind of built that kind of that sergeant, that guy, like, whatever.
Like you said, they're the key word, that compartmentalization, which, I have to say, and I've never been in that situation, but you have, and just hearing about it, that comes back to sort of haunt you, I guess, later down the line. We have it described as shell shock and PTSD, et cetera, et cetera. But when you get back to the world, these things come back on you a lot of times.
Well, yeah, when you're spending 12 to 15 months, what I had to do was, especially with the family, little kids and stuff like that I had, my daughters at that, real emotional about it. So in order to not get emotional and think about them and miss them, I used to have to pretend like I didn't have a family.
Yeah.
And that was, that was what kind of caught up to me, later on down the road, because for a guy who grew up poor, in the Army, making a lot of money and stuff like that, it got to a point where I was like, man, they should be happy. We have money to go to Disney World, go do this, and this, as long as I stay gone and doing stuff. So I would always volunteer for more missions and stuff like that, because I guess it just got to a point where I got so used to compartmentalizing that as where I didn't have anything but me and the mission. And that caught up to me.
So what, how many deployments did you end up doing?
Between SF and the regular Army, or like South America, let's say I have 32 months combined between Iraq and Afghanistan, and I have 14 months with Central South America, just doing 3-month, 6-month deployments down there.
Okay. So when we talk about the IEDs, I mean, how many times I know you mentioned how many times it was when I met you and we talked a little bit that night. It sounded, when you told me the number, I can't remember the exact number, but I couldn't believe it. I was like, it's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, at a minimum, it was like 15, and that's not uncommon for a lot of people, because even if they don't hit you like directly, like in the face, they hit your vehicle. So you survive a lot of them.
Right.
And I mean, I'm being kind. With 15 months, that's like 1 a month. But in reality, it's like you're doing like 1 every other day, getting hit with an ID, going through the stuff, and it's just you guys. There's nobody really to come take your place, so you just kind of got to brush it off.
Wow.
Really, so that was like our experience.
So the feeling of I say it, and this is minimalizing it, of course, but the closest I've ever felt to the anger that you must have felt when you get hit with an IED and then you get contact and you're receiving small arms fire, the indignation and anger that must cause, where they just try to kill you and then they're shooting at you afterward. What are the feelings going through everybody, when that happens?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't really speak for a lot of people. I had a couple incidents where I had to utilize my rule of engagement, and honestly, behind that was just that anger, frustration, because like, dude, stop messing with us every day, just something like that.
Right.
And after, there's plenty of stories I can talk about, but one time, we were actually, there was like from what I remember, there task force, whatever, obviously like the Special Force Rangers, something like that. They had like I'm not saying this from a movie, but they had like a helicopter go down in the crypto or something, like the radio got kind of hijacked. So we were going from one location to another to pull like some type of security or do something. I mean, we weren't involved directly, but we were pulling some type of, QRF support, because it was like, that didn't just affect us, that was the whole country.
Yeah.
And of course we couldn't even get to one location with the other without somebody like setting up something for us. And I just remember up to the point at least getting hit. Then after that, it was like coming to, and I could just remember like everybody else in Iraq, like when you drive, they get off to the side of the road, and especially when a convoy's coming. And when an IED hits, most innocent people aren't running away, because if I'm talking like it's a normal thing for us every day, it's to those citizens, they're numb to it too. They're just so
commonplace.
So when someone is taking off or doing something like that, then it's like this kind of out of the ordinary, because you just go through this all the time. And it was just one of those things that just wouldn't stop or go, and you just didn't know. And there's some bad dudes, let's put it that way. But I was so angry, because I could just remember waking up and they're like kind of getting directed, like, hey, giving me like the distance, direction, location, like, hey, and description, what's going on. And I just, at that point, I didn't even care. I was just, I hate to even say it, but I was just like, enough's enough type deal. And and that was the anger taking over. And and that's rough. And like, people are put in that situation all the time. And it wasn't like I was out there just trying to murder and kill or anything like that. Like
right.
even before I got to that point, I had to like assess and, you know, do my rules of engagement even before I could think about, you know, with the intent to kill. And obviously that wasn't, but just the anger of just like, God, just give us like, I just want to get this over so I can get back and maybe get some chow or something like that. Or, you know, sit down, you know, that's really what the anger was.
Yeah. So when you then left the military, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit. I mean, was that for family basically?
Yeah, totally. But not just the family. That was actually personally, because I was actually doing pretty well in my career, and I had some great opportunity. I was actually, I actually got some further treatment, I guess, for like PTSD,
right?
That I kind of subsided for like the longest time. But I was ready to kind of go full force with it. But I just had so much. I was just caught up into it too much as far as like the job and just kind of. I was an intel guy also, so like, you know, I had top secret clearance, so I'm reading a lot of the reports and a lot of the stuff that I'm, you know, involved with as far as like just learning the environment no matter where we're going on and just stuff that's going on. Like I was actually starting to personalize everything. So the places I would just, you know, it was like a personal thing, like, you know, especially having daughters and kids and wife and stuff like that, to where I just wanted to kind of, not that physically go out there and save the world, but in my head, I was like, all right, let me try to be the best soldier that I can. And that requires me to, you know, to spend 17 hours at the team room or this and that, or to go to the next school. So I can do that, you know, rather than kind of being present. And then when I was present, I was so on edge and just kind of hyper vigilant. Cause I'm like, dude, you know, what are you doing on Facebook? Like they're going to know our location. Like I was just kind of tripping out all the time. And I just see like a weird vehicle. I knew like the patterns of life where I was living. And anytime I saw something like out of the blue, you know, I was just like, jeez, I'm following him, or, you know, I'm like
something's up.
Security. And mind you, like I don't drink or smoke or anything like this. So like, this is all just straight up, just natural. Like there was nothing pushing me to go do this stuff. It was just like, I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, man, people don't know what the real world's like, and I do. These people are oblivious. So I just really had to separate myself from my family, and then it just got to a point where I wasn't happy with myself anymore. I spent a lot of time with myself, and it was just, God, it was getting rough, and I kind of didn't want my spirituality, but that's when I kind of knew I had to check in.
Yeah. Wow.
I was starting to hate the military too, because I felt like it had turned me into something that,
yeah.
And it wasn't the military. Like I allowed it. It was kind of political and stuff like that. And I just hated just what I had gone through and what I still was going through and the effort that I was putting into it. And, you know, the reward wasn't kind of worth it, because now like my family doesn't really want me, and I'm an awesome dad. I'm great. I'm the funniest dad in the world. You know, and, you know, with my kids or my wife not even want me, I was like, dude, like, why would you throw away like a 15-year marriage for, you know, I'm not abusive or anything like that, but it was just like I was absent. And
right. Wow.
I don't know, because I mean, I was just always busy, either doing my work or in my mind doing stuff. So it was just,
I mean, that unfortunately, I mean, we've seen, you know, not to get too deep into the madness of it, but that's unfortunately a very common story with warriors who come home, or just warriors in general, how it just changed them, changed their family, and et cetera.
I just got to add something. I mean, I knew what I signed up for, and I knew what I was doing.
For sure.
It was just the fact that you do it so much that a lot of guys, they don't, a lot of people higher up, I guess, don't want to give you that time to maybe go refit or get that, because they give you a couple weeks off, and we get lots of days off, and it's there's just a huge stigma like with mental health and all that other stuff, and most people look at it like it's an acid trip, and that's not really what it is. So like that's why a lot of guys won't get seen, because they haven't had that acid trip of seeing Charlie in the trees, or reliving, you know, Afghanistan, like, you know, while I'm doing this podcast. Like it's not really how it works.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you don't get that help. And then if you do, like, God, man, you're just going to get, ostracized or something like that, like, oh, he can't put up with this or he's not that, and you just kind of start, so you just stuff it in a little bit more, like, yeah, I can't, you don't let anybody see it. So that's, I guess, once I got a little bit of help and stuff like that, that's what I ended up having some type of disdain for those people, because I'm like, dude, I could have ended something really good in my life, with so many people, and it was all just to do, like, what they thought of me or how they held my career, stuff like that. And,
hindsight's always 20/20, right? Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. We had on Micah Fink, who runs Heroes and Horses, I believe it's called, Pat. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Heroes for Horses.
Heroes for Horses, yeah.
Heroes and Horses.
Another returning veteran who just had such a great mindset, and that's, I think, you really exemplify it, and we're going to talk about it. You gotten in, once you get out of the military in 2018, you go on to do some very, very inspirational stuff. You're, obviously a motivational speaker. But, I mean, it really does speak to, it really's up to as horrible as it is, and it's not even kind of close to minimizing it. It has to be a willingness of the individual to turn the page, as hard as it is. I mean, ultimately that comes down to that choice. And, when Pat talked to me about who you were, and I'd never heard of you, unfortunately, sir, but when he told me, I was like, yes, we got to get this guy. Like, what, 34 years old, walking on a freaking ASU? Absolutely amazing story. Talk to us about that, how you got out of the military 2018 and where things went from there.
Yeah, so I had a great being in Special Forces, I had a great command team. So I know I put down overall, but I was just kind of marginalizing from other stories that I knew from other people. I was lucky. I had people that actually looked out for me. And so when I finally reached the decision that I was going to kind of break contact, they allowed me to kind of find myself, regain that relationship back with my family, and allowed me to, I had an associate's degree. So I started becoming a substitute teacher, and I became a head wrestling coach at the local high school, got a couple kids scholarships. So I got to pretty much transition into civilian life, learning by trial and error, what to do, what not to do, while still, being in the military. So they allowed me that time to be set up for success before I actually got out. They made sure I was set up for school and all that other stuff. And I knew I was going to take a huge pay cut, a really big pay cut, getting out of the military, but mentally and just for the family, I thought it was the best situation. So I knew how to survive in Arizona, based off of nothing. So that's why I chose all right, I'll go back to Arizona. 'Cause I know at a minimum, I mean, I did my analysis. I was getting X money, the GI Bill and stuff like that. So I was like, I could stretch a penny there. And that's what led me to Arizona. I got accepted, and that was the dream, as a kid growing up, that was the dream, to go to ASU.
Yeah. And I want
to, but
but I want to hear, you have to tell the story of how you ended up walking on to the team there. Because that, about sitting outside the athletic director's office, all this stuff, I found that fascinating. And look, man, without that kind of gumption and willingness and passion to do what you were doing, you weren't it wasn't going to happen otherwise.
No, see, and what led me to that is because I was going to go back to Iowa originally, because at NAIA, there's no age limit. And I wanted to wrestle. Okay. I still wanted to live that dream. But you got a wife, and she's like, I'm not going to Iowa. I was like, no, my wrestling dream is down. So April 28th, I retire. May 2018, I start summer school, and I move out here, and I do that. After 3 months, I'm just like, this, I need a challenge, that it's not like I'm looking for chaos, but I'm comfortable with the battle going on,
Right.
So I was like, man, how do people become Kel Sanderson or Zeke Jones? I mean, obviously they got credentials, but what a guy like me, I haven't won a silver medal or anything like that, but I was on the national team in 2001. I was a Green Beret. I started thinking of these things. I'm like, man, I'm just going to why not just introduce myself to them? I don't know how coaches become coaches at that level. But I've always thought about it. I know I can't get a degree plan for it. So I'm like, the best thing I do is just, why not? If someone had told me what would you do right now if you wouldn't fail? And I'd be like, I'd be wrestling right now or coaching at ASU. So they're like, well, what's stopping you? And I was like, you're right.
Hmm.
And I did that. So I was emailing the coaches, didn't get a response back. I was trying to catch them in their offices, never there. And finally, one day, just making a way up there to where the coach's office is. This older gentleman looked very seasoned, been around, just kind of introduced himself to me, and I'm like, yeah, thanks. He goes, can I help you? I'm like, I'm just looking for the coach's office. The rest, I already had my mission. I knew what I was going for. And he's like, all right, so on the second floor, go here, blah, blah, blah. And I guess he was leaving or something like that. And then next thing you know, I see him again. And he's like, I'm going to take you up there. So we go up there, and I just sit and wait. Well, then obviously, little did I know that they were out on the world team. Zeke was gone coaching the national team. So I was just waiting for nobody. But I never went. And he came out. He's like, you're still here? And he just was curious, like, because he kept seeing me come all the time.
Why are you still here?
Yeah. He's like, what drives you? And then I kind of just shared with him my story. Like, I just wanted to be part of the athletic program. Like growing up, there was always the constants for me. The constants was, obviously like the faith, the Jesus part, professional wrestling, sports, and ASU. That was one of the big things for me. So like being here now, I was like, why not? I didn't really look at it as like an age, I was just, I wanted to, I told him, I was like, I'll mop the mats. I'll take out the trash. I just want to be part of the program, just to be around those guys. Like I've been deployed, like watching the NCAA championships, on AFN, Air Force, Armed Forces Network, seeing this stuff, like, and now I get to actually, meet these guys. Like, it was just something I really wanted. And that guy ended up being an athletic director or senior associate athletic director, John Bakke. And he was like, I can help you out. And he's like, you remind me of me. He's like, I grew up kind of the same way you did. And as soon as I had a wife, and I was just looking for someone to give me a chance and make that break. And when they let him come on as a grad assistant, I think at North Carolina or Kansas State, one of those, before he became a head coach. And it was just there. He said he was willing to do the same thing, just walk around, take out trash. You just need to be a part of that so he can get his foot in the door. And it just kind of happened that way. And next thing you know, I'm talking with the coaches and Zeke. I mean, the coaches, the team, they were really cool. Zeke, as far as putting me on, he was a little resistant because he retired at 31 or 32 actually. And he was just like, he told me, he's like, this isn't a pickup sport. This is not recreational.
Yeah, exactly.
He goes, wrestling in your 30s is just kind of unheard of. And I was like, man, but I kept just trying to explain, like, without minimizing like how hard it is. I was like, this isn't much of a stretch for me, as far as putting in the work and doing the other stuff. And I wasn't even asking to be a wrestler at this time. I was just trying to just be a practice dummy or a coach.
Yeah.
And after, they kind of let me around, and just to do that, I was wrestling with the RTC. So I was starting to wrestle and stuff like that. And then Chris Pendleton, two-time national champion, our assistant coach, was kind of digging down deeper into like my background. He's like, wait a minute. So your eligibility probably started this time. You joined at this time, which means it's frozen. When he goes, Roman, you might still have eligibility. Randy Couture did it. He's like, he goes,
explain that if you don't mind, because there is a cutoff normally at, I think, 25.
25, yeah. So that's the thing, 25. And that's why I didn't even entertain the idea of wrestling, because I'm far from 25. But Jamil Kelly was on the team with Randy Couture. So that's kind of how they knew of this part. And plus we had guys from Latter-day Saints on our team, Tanner Hall. So when he graduated, did his mission, come back. So he's a little bit older than the rest of the guys. So basically your eligibility is frozen, kind of put on hold. Same with the military. You're gone serving when, during the time your clock's ticking, it's frozen. So, and they've had lots of, even kickers and stuff like that, the NFL, or not NFL, but make it to the NFL, but in pro sports do that. But they usually spend like 4 or 5 years, not 14 years, and then get out and do it.
Right.
That was the unique part that Chris was trying to figure out. He was like, what, on paper, you might be 19 again. He's like, why don't you try to walk on? And I was just like, whoa, one, because of who he is. Like, I've respected this guy, like, not just as a person, but his accolades. I knew him. He was like what was popular when I was in high school.
Right.
And after was, Chris Pendleton, and of course, Jamil Kelly, the silver medalist.
Right.
Lee Fritz, like these guys were just larger than life, and they were going to give me a shot. And the athletic department was about it. Like the athletic director, he was obviously I was not the prototype like Kurt Angle, but they were like, hey, you got to look past the win-loss column on this and just see what you can bring to the table.
Yeah. Oh, it's the truth. It's the damn truth.
Oh, yeah, it's real. And it was, and I'm really glad he did that. And you know what? He did that for Pat Tillman too. Kevin Tillman told me a story once that Don Bakke, the same guy that gave me my start and believed in me, is kind of like helping others up. He said that Pat wasn't the biggest. He wasn't drafted. He wasn't the fastest. So he talked to the Cardinals like, hey, we get it. But if you put him on that team, he's going to make every other guy, better. He may not start, but he's going to make that team better. And they took a shot on him, and he ended up – he was defensive player of the year, It was So it was like – so sharing that story, Kevin told me after he heard mine, he's like, dude, that guy did that for Pat. He knows people. And, it was just awesome, not just to share that story with Pat, but just like, man, like how genuine and kind of authentic. And without looking at the win-loss column, he's like, this guy – and not just me, I'm not trying to even brag, but I mean, that's the story.
That's awesome.
Well, anybody that hears that story who's connected in your story and the desire that you showed and the determination of not, geez, this guy's here every day. We can't tell him to leave. God, it's.
I think I practiced 4 months out. This is where I met Ryan Bader. So, because I knew I was like just waiting for a shot to get on that team. So linked up with a friend of mine, Seth Baczynski, who was in the UFC, and introduced me to, I didn't know he was taking me to Bader's gym. It was just like, hey, this is a place where you kind of roll around and stay in shape, grappling shape, until this crazy thing happens. And I remember meeting him, he was just a light heavyweight champ. This time I was like, So he's like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be walking on the wrestling team. Because you're only like a couple years younger than I am. I was like, yeah. But he didn't look at it like it was crazy. He's like, all right, man. He goes, well, let's start rolling. And then it was awesome. Just like, yeah. And he kind of helped me stay in shape, because I would show up for practice, like when we'd have the meetings and whatever. And then I'm like, okay, they're practicing. I'm like, all right, I can get to Bader's by 9 and I'll be able to get in an hour of this. I'll get a lift in. So I had like my own regiment, like what I was going to do. Because I wasn't, due to insurance purposes, and I wasn't on the roster yet, I couldn't be in there with the team.
So when is the first match? When's it?
So it had already happened. So I was showing up to the matches. I was doing everything, because I built a rapport and like a relationship with a lot of the wrestlers anyways. So we were always in the loop. We're doing Bible studies and stuff like that. And then finally January comes around and the NCAA approves me. So obviously, from like September to whatever, like I was just in the background, just doing what I could, staying in the loop, and just, they're outside they're inside on the mat. I'm outside, running sprints, doing whatever. So it was, I guess you could say, the longest tryout process in the world. No, but it wasn't on them. It was just, it was NCAA compliances, making sure everything lined up. And yeah, it happened. It was great.
So, you start practicing with the team then.
Yep.
Obviously. And, wrestling's a sport where you get banged up. You've had a knee injury, other things. That's commonplace in wrestling, all that. But you've healed up, and you let me know a few days ago that now it's incredible. It's awesome. The walk on at your age, taking a long shot at it, and you're going to be the starting lineup against Austin of South Dakota.
Yep. So yeah, it was.
And what day is that? What day is
November 15th? That's Friday, 7 p.m.
So you have had your first. 15th. You haven't had your first match?
No, I just got word a couple days ago.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking. When's the first match with ASU?
Yeah, well, they're wrestling this weekend, on a tournament, and it's our first home duel.
Nice.
Yeah, so dude, I'm getting that opportunity.
Awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the pre 30 for 30 right here, dude. This is
it's when I got that news, I didn't even know what to think. Even Chris was just like, "Hey, Zeke, I always say like you get rewarded in public for the things you practice in private. And that's what happened. You know, I, even with kind of hurting my knee a little bit, just putting in the work, you know, behind the scenes and stuff like that. It was just, but I mean, the coaches see it too. And it's funny because going from like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, just where it was that time where they were saying like, hey, you know, all right, we'll find a spot for you or this and that. And you're going to know your role is to get these guys ready for, you know, the Pac-12 championships and then for the NCAAs. Are you okay with that? And I was like, totally. And now they're actually giving me an opportunity to wrestle, you know, to, you know, just it's almost like they're rewarding me. Like they're just like, man, you deserve this. You're gonna do, you know.
And you do, bro. I mean, clearly
so,
you do.
That's just like crazy.
That's
like
amazing, man.
It was just yeah. And yeah, so a couple of the guys
to suit up in a Sun Devil. Dude, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of the guys, you know, Cordell Northleet and Cade Belche. I mean, those are your starters right there, and they're even stepping aside, just allowing this. You know. Well,
has this? I mean, honestly, you guys might probably know better than me. Has this ever happened?
No.
So I was like, dude, we're talking some pretty unprecedented business going on right here, bro.
I think the oldest person I've seen wrestle, like, I don't know, he was like 33, and it was like Northern Iowa, I believe.
Wow. That's so impressive, dude. I mean, it's Arizona State too. It's not like
I mean,
Potawatomi Community College or something. You know what I mean? You're smashing it, bro.
It's and I knew it was as far as being like the oldest walk-on Division I, but now to actually wrestle that match, like I never even entertained it. That's what I'm saying. So I was just happy where I was at, playing the role that I needed to play, and you know, just still challenging myself. So this was just. I mean, it hasn't even happened yet. So
no, but I mean, it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I'm just gonna say, and I said it to him before. You're like Rudy that actually can play football.
That's what I said. When Pat told me about it,
so
like this is Rudy.
That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah. It's Rudy squared.
Get out there and get pinned right away.
You know what, man? I mean, obviously,
stay off your back. Stay off your back.
Yeah. Obviously, you want to win, but I mean, bro, you've won already. I mean, this is a monster W.
Like, yeah, it's awesome. At least I'm not doing nothing, and this was just icing on the cake. And just I think I failed to enjoy like the journey a lot of the times, like trying to achieve like the next big thing.
Crucial, bro. Oh,
and even right here, like there were some things that I had great opportunities and did some stuff with some, you know, championship matches and stuff like that, and I took like losing and all that stuff so serious I didn't even enjoy, like, you know, looking around at the stands, the people in the stands, the environment, the smells, all that other stuff. So I'm just gonna go in there and just soak it all in, have, you know, and just I really am just gonna have fun. I know that's cliche and people say
no,
that,
absolutely not, man. I mean,
you're my age and to have this, like, it's this is like a real life action movie, and I'm actually the star in this right now. So
baby, well deserved.
I'm going to look at everything and to the details, to the mat, the music, like a lot of that stuff. And that's the win for me. Like if I win, great. I mean, but if I lose, like it's
unprecedented. I mean, not many times in life you could say you're the first ever of anything. I mean, and
really, it's just getting the approval of my coaches. That was the biggest thing. I mean, not just for this, but I mean, a while back, just being brought into the team and stuff like that. That was a win.
Well, I mean, you absolutely exemplify everything we try to talk about here on Everything Combat. And it's not always about the physical combat, even though you are going to be getting into physical combat. It's that metaphorical combat of overcoming stuff in life to take that stuff to the next level. And, you know, like you said in certain interviews, you know, you didn't want to settle for certain jobs because you know you were meant for something bigger than that. And to be able to believe that, it really has to start with belief first, honestly. And then, you know, it's dope, man. I'm really glad to have met you, dude. But hold on, I cannot let you slide because in my research, and you've mentioned it here already, you're a pro wrestling fan. So let's talk about a little wrestling here for a hot minute. When did you get into professional wrestling, my friend?
It's my earliest childhood memories. Earliest. Maybe, obviously, like I'm 4 years old, maybe younger than that. I remember just being at Sunday school and seeing, like, you know, the Hart Foundation versus like the Killer Bees and Hulk Hogan. So those are like,
So it was so when you say that, it was WWF was your first exposure, because obviously you're Ric Flair in the South, the NWA. Yeah. A lot of, I mean, you're a little younger, so you might not have been hip to that, but a lot of people got their first exposure to, like you said, that early '90s Undertaker, Hart Foundation, etc. WWF.
Because I mean, probably 86, 87.
Okay.
Like in my baby book, like there's actually remnants of my baby book that still exists, and in there. It's at 6 months old. It said Roman loves to watch wrestling. And beat up his pillow, and then it's like later on down the road, like
beat up his pillow. So I used to put ass whoopings on my pillows, dude. My goodness.
Just watch pro wrestling all day. Like they just sit me in my crib and watch it. So
that's so awesome.
Kind of like it chose me. I didn't choose them.
No, absolutely.
So as this progresses with Arizona State, you get your degree. I mean, what do you see yourself moving into after you get your degree, Roman? I mean, you're obviously very good at motivational speaking. You've got self-help books out, right. Brochures, all that, different stuff that you were kind enough to let me have. And they're well put together. They're very well put together. But I mean, where do you see yourself going after you are done at Arizona State? I mean, are you going to stay there and coach and help out?
There's definitely a lot of opportunities for me, but I don't even want to. Rambo is fictional, but he's that guy that, he left the war, but he can't leave the war. He's comfortable in it. And after this is over, I'm like, man, like I told you earlier, I need that next battle, that next challenge, what can I do next? And so, I'm kind of looking into, I want to be that larger than life character that kind of helped me get through those hard times, So, and that's pro wrestling. Cause I feel like I could resonate with a lot of people, and I'm ready to put the work in. Like I'm ready to start from the ground up and build something else. Like, so it's just this isn't like the ultimate end all be all goal. This is just the next step or something else. Yeah.
Step into the old WWE and let Vince know, yo, baby, there was only room for one Roman in this company. Kick that chump out of here and bring in the real deal.
And the nice thing is you don't even have to change your name.
Yeah, Roman Rozell.
I mean, that's perfect for WWE.
There's only one. Yeah.
No. But see, that's what Vince does. He brings you in because you're a badass, and then he changes you into something like the pink flamingo, like he did the Red Rooster with my man Terry Taylor. Like he throwing polka dots on dusty roads. Like, shame on you, sir.
I mean, but it's a thing. I think I have. Pro wrestling has always been a part of my life, and it's always been my cross to bear. I mean, I've always gotten hassled from it, and you should see my closet. It's full of nothing but like, I mean, my oldest is going to be 17. So like every holiday, every gift, like I get pro wrestling, like toys, obviously, because I didn't have the toys when I was younger.
Nice.
Right.
So I got boxes and boxes of that stuff. So like it's, and now it's part of, I mean, it's really kind of helping me cope and do everything. Like after I got out of the military, like I kind of rebuilt myself from the ground up, bullets aren't flying anymore. So now I get to be a family man, be a school. So I've really been like a regenerated new guy. And so it's almost like I got a do-over in life, but I got to keep the same life. God gave me that do-over, Uncle Rico going back in time. So just like anybody, like starting off in high school, going to college, now the next thing. So I got a do-over in life. I had a career, military. I got a do-over, came back, got to do school, college, get my degree, and now I'm going to do the next thing. And that's what I want to do is pro wrestling. And if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, that just means that I'm no longer with you guys. Because if history can tell me otherwise, it's going to happen. The universal line, you get rewarded for the things that you do, that you practice.
You remind me a lot of a good friend of mine who served as a lot of motivation for me. I don't know if you're familiar with David Clark, the ultra runner, who started out a 320-pound drug-addicted alcoholic. And now he's 160 pounds.
Breaking up, champ.
Run over, I think, 100 miles. He's run through. He's done the Badwater 135 a couple times, Leadville 8 times. So but he decided he was going to run across the country, and then he decided he was going to run 48 hours on a treadmill and for 188 miles for charity. And now he's riding like 2,500 miles in the dead of winter across Canada into the United States to all the original 6 cities of the NHL for charity, for addiction and stuff. And so you kind of remind me of him a lot in terms of, like, he creates things in his mind that are impossible, and then he goes and does them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I can relate to that in terms of, when, I mean, my mom was the only one that said, yeah, I believe in you. You can go be a UFC world champ. Go do it. Everybody else was like, dude, are you high? So I can relate to dreaming, man. I can relate to dreaming. It's incredible to see somebody that dreams a hell of a lot bigger than me. You're doing some cool shit.
No, I don't think so.
It's awesome. It's really you're the kind of person that inspires a lot of people, including myself, dude. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Well, thank you. And there's more to come.
Yeah, I mean, man, any number of things. I mean, we know the society we're living in now. There is a bit of a, how do I say it? Softening of the gentleman in our society today. And it's just, yeah, man. It's cool to see you doing what you're doing, because, again, you exemplify everything that we're talking about here on Everything Combat, man. Just taking the life's obstacles, overcoming them. They don't define you. And just, yeah, I could definitely see you in the professional wrestling ring, my friend.
Yeah.
Work on that acting. Work on that acting.
Dude, do you remember me telling you the story about my mom trying to coach me already how to get the cops out of there? I was little.
Right. You've done it already. Yeah. So before we let you go, dude, thank you for your time. Number one, it's been a pleasure to be part of at least getting your story out to our listeners. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this and be inspired by it. But for people to get your self-help book, your brochures, all sort of stuff, and kind of get on your page, how can they follow you on social media and your website also?
Yeah. The website's www.romanrozell.com. That's ROMANROZELL. And the same thing that's like for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just at Roman Rozell. And yeah.
Okay.
And if you do get into professional wrestling, bro, don't let them turn you into a baby face. You're a heel, bro. You're a freaking heel all day.
Yeah. I think, well, it could be like that thing where you don't know, like, if you want to be my friend or you do, or you want to boo me or you don't. Like, I think I'm not that in between.
Well, I think you've, like you said, you created a bit of balance with yourself and insight and come to grips and whatever the term is, okay with the dark side, because you've seen the dark side and embraced that dark side, and it hasn't defined you, but you can go there, and that's what I think the best heels do. So instead of trying to be some babyface running around, high-fiving kids and smiling, embrace the darkness.
Yeah. People are attracted to that anyways.
Yeah.
But, well, another thing is on Thanksgiving on USA Today, there's going to be a new documentary kind of showing, everything that goes on behind the scenes, waking up early, living an hour and a half from campus, and then getting there and then going to appointments, doing all that. So they get to see today we got to talk about like all the cool feats and accomplishments that I had, but what I like about this is kind of show just how difficult and the grind is. Just first day of shooting, the camera crew was like, we got to just do this in segments, because they left their vehicles here. So they were with me all day. So that's, practices, VA appointments, chiropractor, class, homework, class. Then I go coach club, and they're like, so
we need unit 1, 2, and 3 here.
And I didn't even really think about a lot of it until they started filming me and doing a lot of this stuff. I'm like, I was just, I dream big and I try to do the impossible. So like, I just do. If I think about it, then I may hesitate or, get distracted. So I don't know. It'll be cool for people to see,
Moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, dream big. We say it all the time, man. Don't let
you got to do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work.
Unchain your mind.
Yeah, just keep working and dreaming. Day by day, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
Day
Honestly, Roman, dude, let's stay in touch, bro. I mean, obviously, as things go on with you, I knew I was gonna like this interview, and when Pat kind of debriefed me on you, and I went in and checked you out, and then I also dropped the pro wrestling word. I knew you were a buddy, but yeah, I was glad to meet you, my friend.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is really awesome.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you again, Roman. We're gonna keep tabs on you. We're gonna keep stay in touch. I'm looking forward to somehow viewing your wrestling match. Good luck to the Sun Devils out there, and of course this weekend also coming up, the tournament that they're in, and we definitely want to do a follow up, brother.
For sure.
Awesome, thank you,
Roman Rozell, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out, Social Networking, which we will post in the old video here. Roman, peace out, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Roman. Take care, brother.
Back at you, ladies and gentlemen. What an awesome conversation, dude, with Roman Rozell, dude. That guy's a beast, man. Just such a fascinating story. But I wanted to talk with the champ before we let you guys fully slide. And we had an incredible weekend. We have obviously been posting over the last few weeks about us linking up with Caged Aggression MMA and Mike Goodwin and their whole incredible crew over there. We had an amazing weekend, an incredible turnout. Pat, what's the debrief here on this event this weekend? I thought we did a pretty good job, and a lot of people seemed to be pleased. Had some pretty huge announcements as far as upcoming fights with yourself. What's going on?
Well, first and foremost for me, this was I don't know, it just jumped into my head. Of course, I had lost my job with Access TV, as did everyone else in the MMA production crew after the Anthem buyout. So, I was licking my wounds. I was bummed out, like, wow, what just happened? It was like one day you're gainfully employed with the arguably probably top, 2-3 shows on the network. And all of a sudden they're just discontinuing it. Suits make decisions like that, right? It's just no rhyme or reason. That's what they do. So anyway, so I was pissed off, actually. I was pissed off, and I thought, you know what? I know some talented people, including you, Mike Goodwin, and Justin Holstein, Paul Martinez. And I thought, you know what? We can do this ourselves. We can figure this out. Kelly Jeffries with Done Right TV also. I thought all the pieces of the puzzle made sense to me, right? And so in 3 weeks' time, a lot of really motivated and talented people came together, and we were able to pull off our first pay-per-view. And I tell you what, dude, I don't think people realize in 3 weeks' time, from not even thinking about having our own broadcast team or production team.
Well, we've always been working together, but yeah, it's to specifically apply it to that kind of application.
That's
yeah.
I mean, that's an accomplishment. That's no joke.
Definitely.
That's not a joke.
Without
and especially all these people that have never worked together. Of course, you and I have worked together doing our podcast. Justin has worked with us a little bit on filming some of our pieces, but nobody worked together. We didn't really, we didn't know how it was going to go. So anyway, I think everyone performed very well. I think, we all came away knowing that we can improve it because it was a last minute thing. And, nothing was the technology and everything else we had to throw together last minute we didn't know. We really didn't. But I would say overall that everybody involved went, holy shit, we did it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm super stoked. I'm pumped. I'm really pleased with how everything went. And I think everybody involved should be very proud of themselves, man. And I'm not patting myself on the back. All I had to do was stand there and hold a microphone and do the same thing I've done for, well over a decade. I mean, you've never done a live sports broadcast for mixed martial arts. Mm-mm. You did a stellar job. Same for everybody else. It was the first time for all of them doing a live broadcast. So, I was the guy that just went, and I was totally calm. I was totally calm. I know a lot of people were nervous, but I was totally calm. I was like, it's gonna fucking happen. It's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, and it came together. Well, yeah, I mean, there was, there was a lot on the line. It was, like I said, the coming together for the first time in such a short period of time was there was a lot of moving parts, like you said, but I think it came together magically, dude. You know, obviously it's not like there was zero bumps in the road, but those things can be managed and they're, you know, taken care of. And we're already kind of moving on for other projects, other events, other ways to, you know, put these talents together. So a lot came from it.
Our next pay-per-view that we know of right now will be in March. We'll do the Caged Aggression 2-day event, which will be a Friday and Saturday nights in March. And then it looks like we'll be doing another one in April. But, you know, we're, I think, gonna get it fine-tuned and it'll be even better. And that's what we're here to do, man, is get better all the time. So, yeah,
well, and we can't help announce, but, you know, reiterate the announcement of you and Michael Nunn. I think it's April 18th, and we believe we've locked down the location, but I think the date we've locked down. But you guys are going to get it on with special stipulations with kicks being involved. I think that's definitely a game changer as far as a contest like that. But, yeah, we would be remiss if we did not mention that.
Right, yeah. And I'm hamstrung a little bit by not being able to wrestle and do submissions. Of course, it wouldn't probably be much of a fight. And given how ungodly long and tall he is in boxing, I'd have fits even hitting him probably. I mean, I'd probably hit him, but I mean, he was untouchable in his prime, right? Yeah. Untouchable. So his boxing level was better than anybody else on the planet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be our fight will be the spectacle. It'll be the unknown. You know, it's almost like the early days of UFC when you take a karate guy against a wrestler, whatever. We're taking a boxer versus a kickboxer, and we're gonna throw it together. You know, but more than anything, a lot of the young people from young fighters from the area and in this, you know, immediate kind of region will get an opportunity to be on the undercard.
Without a doubt, yeah.
You know, and get their name out there on a pay-per-view. And, you know, going back to our pay-per-view this past weekend with Caged Aggression, you know, I mentioned it today at our post-mortem meeting after we got done with it. People don't realize that we were up against Canelo Alvarez world title fight and also against
UFC 244
Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz, which for people to comprehend how big that fight was, at the MGM where Canelo Alvarez was fighting, the entire MGM Grand, including the fighters, the fighters stayed in their locker room and they waited and played the Masvidal Diaz fight live on a Trinitron in the MGM arena where those guys were fighting, waited until that fight was done, and then they proceeded with Canelo Alvarez fighting.
Yeah.
So that tells you how big that Diaz. So, you know, we were up against a lot of stuff, a lot of big stuff, but that's okay because we wanted to climb that mountain and see if we could pull off a pay-per-view.
And we did. Yeah, and we absolutely did.
And there were people out there that actually bought it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that was kind of a beta test. And it, you know, and again, you just don't really have the full appreciation of how many moving parts behind. We see more and more with like YouTube documentaries behind the scenes of WWE or UFC and a lot of the moving parts. But I mean, unless you're just there for those days and you just see it and all the guys who just put hours and hours and hours into assembling all that, the lights, the sound, it's really daunting. And you just hats off to those guys who really put in the work to make that stuff. Because like I've said, man, there's so many layers to these cool shows. You know, the sound, the pyro, not even just the pyro, the lights. It just adds to the experience. So there's a lot that goes into it, man. Hats off to all of those guys, man. Sean and the whole Caged Aggression production crew. They killed it.
Right. And Jason, also the ring announcer did a great job. He
Jason Vargas
paid attention to our cues very well. We were running blind on that, you know, just because those guys never needed communications between the commentators, the ring announcer, all that, because they weren't on TV.
Right.
And so Jason, the ring announcer, did a great job paying attention to everything and the cues and did a stellar job. And so, look, man, I'm pumped because next time we're not going to be flying blind. We'll have communications
and like you said, we did it in 3 weeks. So next time we'll have several weeks to, you know, shoot the right vignettes, promotional stuff. Like, you know, like our boy Justin says, enough runway to really make this thing take off the way we want it to.
Yeah, and you know, think about it, man. I've worked with shows that have mega budgets. I mean, big multi-million-dollar budgets for production.
Yeah,
and we did this with equipment that people already had and our time, right?
And the passion, the people who had the producers and Sean and his whole production crew, like the passion to make it happen, to put in those hours, man. 'Cause they, like I said, those Cage Aggression has been going on for several years, over a decade, I believe. So it's like I think we've attached ourselves to, I think, a very strong promotion. I think it's a win-win for everybody as long as we just keep pumping out this good content. They keep killing it with the fights, the production, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. It's going to be a fun ride.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So anyway, that's the gist of it, buddy. We pulled it off, and I'm really happy with how it went. And, I'm stoked to continue down the road.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun, man. And again, thanks to you for allowing me to kick it with you. That was awesome. Definitely a pitch.
Let's talk about Hard to Kill Holiday Challenge a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. November 1st, we started it. So whatever it is you want to level up on, ladies and gentlemen, it's just a little, personal accountability exercise for a couple of months. I know everybody's ready to say they're going to change their life here in a little bit on January 1st, but we all know how that plays out. So, I mean, let's just get a jump on it, man. November 1st.
Hey, man, that's the thing. Life started last Monday, last week, getting up at 4 a.m., getting my workouts at 5 a.m., eating better, using the chemicalfreebody.com /farmer products, and my Greens 85, all that stuff. I've lost 14 pounds, something like that, and it's going to continue to go down. I'm doing a 6-week program first of every other day, doing a circuit lift run workout.
Nice.
Doing basically one day could be 10 burpees, run a quarter mile hard, do that 10 times, that sort of stuff, or do a circuit lift, run hard for 8 minutes, different types of stuff, and do that 3 or 4 times through. And then on other days, I'm going to swim laps for a mile, or get a lift in where I need work on my body, whatever. But I want everybody out there. This is for all those people that suffer from depression during the holidays and stuff. Veterans, people who've lost loved ones. And I've certainly lost a lot of close family members to tragedies. So for me, it's I've got a vested interest in this, and I want to if we can help just one person get through the holidays that might not have made it, that's the important part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. While at the same time, leveling up and just like I said, not allowing those horrible things in our life to define our situation, though we miss them, and it is tough during the holidays, without a shadow of a doubt, champ. But this is just a good time, man. It's a good accountability exercise where we all, there's no prize. It's just we dedicate ourselves to just having that kind of positive energy and blasting through here these next couple months, moving into the new year of 2020, and just being good to ourselves, man, because we absolutely deserve it. Man, that was a really awesome episode we just had with Roman Rozell. Such a crazy, just inspirational story, dude. He's going to be wrestling here for ASU here a couple weeks here, champ. 34 years.
No, next week against Augustana of South Dakota. And so he's in the starting lineup, and they've put him in there. Zeke Jones and the coaches down at Arizona State have, he's paid his dues down there. His story is incredible for anybody.
I mean, dude, we literally talked to somebody who's the first to ever do something in that realm of.
Yeah. Walk on to Arizona State at age 34. His eligibility, as he said during the show, froze while he was in the military for 14 years, and then he came out and walked on. So really inspirational guy, man. Inspirational guy.
Absolutely.
I really like him a lot.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So hope you guys enjoyed that episode. As always, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We got some good stuff lined up here on Everything Combat, because life is a fight. Peace and love.